Today we're back with my story, but before we get to the act 3 of chapter 5, I would like to update on the parts inspired by the Abyss series by Emily Skrutsky for a scene during chapter 5. I'm gonna go get to the act now. Also, disclaimer, if you hear any wind sounds, there's currently a cold front. So if you hear it sounds like a wolf howling, that's like the wind. Act 3, Happy Dragon Halloween. It had been 4 weeks and 1 day, and it was now October 22nd, and the leaves had started to change color, and the air had a slight chill, causing Izumi and Ushio to have Nick deliver them clothing for the cooler temperatures. But more importantly, it was Nick's first official day on the police force, and Nick got up and he got ready for his day and put on his wingsuit. Then he flew to the police station where he was led to a meeting room that was empty. Then he checked the time to see it was an hour early, and Nick decided to go back to sleep in a chair. Nick was woken up by Ushio and Maverick and Bryce. Well, you're early. Now all we need to do is wait for Naomi, Maverick, and Sebastian, Bryce said. After a few more minutes, everyone else arrived, and Bryce started the meeting. Okay, everyone. Today, as you can see sitting next to Maverick, we have a rookie in the room. Speaking of which, this week, Nick is going to be helping around the office, as I don't want him getting hurt on his first week, considering how fragile he is like Ushio. Nick would look at Bryce with a look of, really, dude? Only joking. We all know that Reza shot you directly in the heart, and nobody can survive that. Except you. You're immortal and can heal almost instantly from all damage, as I have been told by Maverick. But you are working in the office to help Naomi sort things. Is that good of you? Bryce said. Sure, I'll help wherever I'm needed, Nick said. After that, Bryce continued with the meeting, saying how the crime rate had gone down significantly since Ushio had joined, and after they announced Nick was joining, a few hours passed, and everyone's shift was done, and all of what uh, and all of what Nick needed to do had been done, and Nick went home for the day. On his way home, he heard human footsteps behind him, and he turned around to see Izumi no longer wearing her blue and white engineer uniform with a brown cloak she had, and said, "Hey Izumi, it's been a while since we have spoken. How are you?" "Good. How's it been for you, Nick?" she said as she sped up and slowed down to match Nick's pace. "Good. It was my first day of work as a police officer. What are you doing for work around here?" Nick said. "They made me the Minister of Human Technology since I know so much about the portal and how it works." "Well," Nick said, "Nick, I'll see you around. Also, if you need anything regarding the portal, call me either by landline or the focus. It doesn't matter which one you use," Izumi said. "I will," Nick said. After they went their ways, Nick continued walking home until it started to drizzle, with slightly cold rain, and Nick started to walk faster. And right as Nick, after 40 minutes of walking, he turned onto his street, and it started to pour. And Nick walked down the street into his and Maverick's house. When Nick got inside, he changed his clothes so he would not be walking around the house with soaked clothes. Then Nick was done changing. He quickly put on a sweater and ran outside to cover his aircraft with a tarp he had bought a few weeks prior in case it rained. When Nick got back inside, he took the sweater off, then sat on the couch and checked the weather on the TV. It will be raining all throughout this week with temperature dropping into the 60s during the day to the low 50s during the night. We will be expecting some thunder on Wednesday. This is your meteorologist, Tony Dimitri. Nick changed the channel and thought to himself, damn, I don't have to fly this week. If I do, that's going to be a slight annoyance. And my wingsuit is still fucking drying off. Nick then walked to the bookshelf on the other side of the living room, and he picked out the first book in the Sheridan series, then sat down to read. An hour later, Maverick came home to find that Nick had fallen asleep while reading. He quietly took the book from Nick's hand and put a sheet of paper on the page it was on, and set it on the table in front of the couch. Then he poked Nick's face with his tail and said quietly to himself, "Yep, he's bricked all right. Better not wake him up, even though it's like 5:21 in the afternoon." Then, suddenly, without warning, Maverick heard faint music coming from Nick's focus, and Nick jolted awake and quickly pushed the green holographic display of the phone and said, "Hello, what's the matter with this call?" Yeah, tomorrow at 10:45 a.m. we are having a technology demonstration for the Air Force and Robotics Unit. The woman on the and said, "How long will it take and when do I need to leave?" Nick asked. "It will take around 6 hours and hold on, what time is it there?" The woman said. "It's 5:14 p.m. DS DCST." Nick said, checking the time. "So you need to leave around 3 a.m. in the morning there." "Okay, I'll be there," Nick said. Nick hung up, and Maverick asked, "What was that about, my dear human? You look very annoyed right now." "I have something I have to go do out of the universe tomorrow, and I have to leave at 3 in the morning to get there at 10:45 in the morning. And now I have to call Bryce and tell him about it, because I'll be there for most likely the entire day. Because usually it takes a few more hours than they say, and it's just a whole fucking process. But hey, it's what I signed up for when the original survivors of Mordor named me the leader of New Mordor. But hey, that's my life for ya. Constantly having to run around." And Nick was not able to finish his rant as Maverick pinned him to the couch and said, "Hey, look, look at me. Stop stressing out over this, or I'll find where you most ticklish and tickle you till you'll pass out." "Okay, I'll calm down, babe. I'll still let you try and tickle me, though. I'll give you a subtle hint," Nick said. Then Nick pointed at the bare skin on the side of his stomach area as Maverick pulled away from him and poked at Nick's side, resulting in Nick jumping and emitting a sound akin to a very short scream. "I'm gonna regret telling you that, aren't I?" Nick said, trying not to giggle. "No, you're totally not gonna regret it one bit, because I would never assault you with tickles whenever you're upset about something and try to cheer you up. Not at all," Maverick said in a loving but very sarcastic tone. "Now you're speaking my language," Nick said. Ah, yes, sarcasm. One of the human world's 6,500 different languages. Anyways, while I go prepare dinner, you need to call Bryce. Maverick left to go into the kitchen as Nick pushed Bryce's contact and pushed the call of hologram option. And Bryce answered. Hey Nick, what the hell? I was not expecting this. What do you need this fine afternoon as I'm about to get off work? Bryce, I'm sorry, but I won't be able to come in tomorrow as I had something come up that's very important, Nick said. Hey man, you're all good. May I ask what it is? Bryce said. It's a test for some new thing that the new Midorian Aerospace and Weapons company has been working on. From what they said, it's for some form of combat drone. Nick said. Oh well, I'm gonna let you go so you can prepare for that. Bryce said. Then he hung up. A few minutes passed, and it was 5:26 p.m. and Nick caught the scent of cooking steak in the kitchen. Then Nick got up to go to the bathroom so he could shave off what little facial hair he had that had grown since the last time he shaved. After a few minutes, Nick went back to the living room where he found Maverick waiting for him with two plates of food consisting of steak and a few vegetables native to ancient Earth, and some vegetables he recognized, namely a baked potato. Why a baked potato? I don't know. I fucking like baked potatoes. Don't question it. While Nick was eating, Maverick spoke up and said, So, Nick, I have a question about Tuesday. What is thy question? Nick said in a joking way. Every year, I go to my parents' home across town and we watch a few horror movies for Halloween. Would you like to come join us? Maverick said. Sure, I'd love to, but, one thing. Do they know about me and the fact that I'm human? Nick said with a slight concern in his voice. Nick, don't worry, they know, and I already know that they're gonna love you. Okay, that's all I needed to know, Nick said, continuing to eat. And after a few minutes, Nick and Maverick had scooted up next to each other and watched TV for the next 3 hours until Nick decided to call it a night at 8:45 p.m. When Nick woke up, he checked the time and it was 2:20 a.m. Monday, October 23rd, 1761. As Nick got up, he kissed Maverick on the side of the head and started to get ready after 20 minutes. He he took a sticky note and drew a smiley face on it. Then, as he exited the house, put it on the inside area of the door. Nick walked to his plane and uncovered it, then began making pre-flight checks. After Nick made sure everything was working properly, he climbed into the plane and began starting up the plane systems. And the engines roared to life, and he activated the noise dampeners as to not wake up the neighborhood more than he probably already has. Then took off. 5 minutes later, Nick had broken through the rain clouds, and he was met by a star-filled sky and decided to take a picture using his focus and continued to soar into the upper atmosphere. When Nick was in orbit, he began jumping to the universe of Horizon Zero Dawn and, and, and jumped. After he jumped, he was met by Earth with the sun peeking over the horizon, and then he descended through the atmosphere to get to New Mordor's capital city. 20 minutes later, Nick was flying over the capital and he started recording with his plane's gun camera as he flew in between super high, white, glossy, smooth, and curved skyscrapers until he turned to fly south, where the test would take place in the middle of where the test would take place in the middle of a desert at a weapons development facility built on the ruins of an old U.S. military base. Once stood once stood before the feral plague. After 30 minutes of flying at Mach 6, he slowed down to landing speed and landed normally on the runway, then taxied to a hangar where there were other people waiting, and shut down his plane before climbing out of it. When Nick walked over to the crowd of people, a man in a black dress uniform walked over to him, walked, o- walked over to Nick and saluted him, then said, "Emperor, we are glad we could make it. Do you need any food or drinks before we begin? We know how much this must have inconvenienced you having to wake up early." "No, Grand Admiral Johnson. I only want coffee at the moment. I can eat at the palace once back in the capital. Also, thanks for leading the evacuation teams during the evacuation of the human city while I was out. If Reza had complied, I would have let him help me. But it's a shame I had to put such good talent to waste. He probably would have been a good Spec Ops soldier if it wasn't for the fact I had already given him a death sentence for the murders, among other things like shooting my boyfriend," Nick said. "Okay, I'll go have someone get that for you. In the meantime, you can go sit over there while they bring the prototype out," Grand Admiral Johnson said. Nick walked over to where there was a tent covering, looked around, and he saw being towed out of a hangar bay a Demobat fighter painted a white and red color, but it looked like it had been modified with the same docking clamps and sensors as the drones used on the Arsenal birds. Nick was then pulled from looking at it. Was then pulled from looking as he heard the telltale sound of dress shoes behind him, and the Grand Admiral's voice calling out to him, saying, "Here's your coffee, sir." "Thanks, Grand Admiral. Now get the others over here and let's start. It's 10:52 a.m. Why are you always late?" Nick said. Then the Grand Admiral beckoned everyone over, including the CEO of the new Madorian Arms and Aerospace Company. As everyone sat down, the CEO said into a radio, "Blackwing, are you ready? Blackwing, we are ready for you to begin the demonstration we've prepared for the Emperor here. Are you ready?" Then a robotic female voice came over the radio and said, "Affirmative, I am ready for takeoff and am beginning my takeoff now." After the voice stopped, the aircraft began racing down the runway, and as soon as it passed the lookout area, it pulled up faster than any human pilot besides Nick could, pulling a high G-force as it flew straight up, and the CEO said, "Nick, this is the Blackwing drone version of the Dimwat fighter, able to fly without a pilot, or it can be interfaced with the Soulcatcher program to bring our best pilots back to life if their families allow us to do so. It can also work in tandem with the Arsenal bird things that you decided to make. Like, actually, I'm not even going to continue. And can soon dot in with and can dock with the soon ready Mark III versions of those things if needed as a home point. Now, would you like a weapons test?" "You don't need to ask twice, Fred," Nick said. "Blackwing, you're cleared to fire on the abandoned Old One machines," the CEO said. The aircraft came in and unleashed a hail of plasma and railgun rounds into the machines, causing the remaining ammunition inside of them to detonate, sending shrapnel everywhere. Then Nick asked, "What's the armament on that thing, Fred?" "Four plasma cannons, four railguns, and a missile/torpedo capacity of 6. the CEO said as the other people chatted amongst each other. After 5 more minutes, the drone landed and Nick returned to the capital, where he ate and spent the rest of the day talking to members of the military and government, and gave the CEO permission to continue the Blackwing program. When he got a call from Maverick and he picked it up. "Hey babe, what's up?" Nick said. "Well, I'm just calling to tell you that it's 5 p.m. and I'm getting off work. Are you still busy?" Maverick said. "You have a few more hours of things to do before I'll be able to get back home. I guess I'll have to eat dinner here tonight," Nick said, slightly sadly. "Well, Nick, I'll see you when you get home, or when I wake up in the morning. Love you," Maverick said. "Love you too, Mavericks. Bye," Nick said before he hung up. It was a few more hours until Nick was done, and he had jumped home. When he checked the time, it was 1:29 in the morning when he landed. When he landed, went inside his and Maverick's home, exhausted and without undressing. Nick fell face first onto the bed and fell asleep instantly. Who is what? Who is texting me? I don't know. When Nick woke up, he was pulled tightly against Maverick's chest, and he looked up to see Maverick looking back at him. And Maverick said, "I see that you're home. It was getting kind of lonely in the bed without you being the warm, cuddly ball of love you are." "Yeah. Well, don't be deceived, because like a lot of small, cute things, I can be very dangerous," Nick said. "True. I saw what you did when Reza pushed your patience a little too far. Damn, you scare me sometimes." "Change of subject. Do you want to go to work?" Maverick asked. "Yes, I I do want," Nick said before he was interrupted by Maverick, who said, "Well, that's too fucking bad, because Bryce wants you to be well rested for tomorrow, because you're going on patrol with Ushio tomorrow, and he also wants me to take care of you for today, considering how tired you were." "Well, that's nice of him, if he's concerned, but will they need help?" Nick said, "You're forgetting it's a small town, and since you two joined us, crime has gone down a lot, so we think we'll be fine. Why don't we snuggle for a few more minutes when we get ready to do whatever we want today?" 10 minutes later, they had gotten up and ate breakfast and decided to spend the day outside, since there was a break in the rain today, and it was a nice 66 degrees outside. While walking through Norvatatsu Park, where the leaves had turned a bright red-yellow, they were met by other dragons as they walked around for most of the day until lunchtime. When Nick and Maverick got to the cafe where they were going to eat lunch, Nick recognized it as the cafe he ate at on his first morning in this world, and went and sat down in a booth next to the window and discussed what they were going to get. "So, Nick, what are you getting?" Maverick asked. "I'm gonna get a burger with fries and ranch. What are you getting, babe?" Nick said in reply. "I'm just gonna get a thing of meat snacks," Maverick said. A minute later, a dean came to the table to take their order and went back to the other tables to see how they were doing. The cafe was packed today, as most people were on their lunch break. Nick looked out the window and looked at the bright blue hue of the sky. There were a few clouds today, and you could see other dragons flying by occasionally. Soon, Dean came with her food, even though Nick was expecting it. His burger alone was the size of a very, very small box, since it was meant to be consumed by dragons and not a human. The size of an average 15-year-old, meaning he would have leftovers for tomorrow or later in the day if he so desired. After they had finished eating, Nick and Maverick went home for the rest of the day and relaxed until it was time to sleep. The next morning, on Wednesday, October 25th, they got up and went to work. In the distance there were dark gray clouds, and it was very windy. And they had just arrived to the police station, and Nick went into the break room and got a cup of coffee. And then Bryce walked in and said, "Good morning, Nick. I see you came prepared with your... what's it called again?" "It's a wingsuit. Actually, I have a good idea on how to improve it so it won't get in the way sometimes," Nick said. "What's with you and tinkering with things? Like last week, where you messed with the printer in my office after it messed up. And now it's working like 900% better than it was before," Bryce said. "Oh, do you want me to do what I did to yours to the other printers in the building?" "Also, me messing with stuff is just something I do to pass the time," Nick said. "No, not at the moment. I still need to observe the long-term effects of what you did to the damn thing," Bryce said. "A master never shares his secrets, Chief," Nick said sarcastically. Bryce saw Ushio pass by and said, "Hey, Ushio, come here. Nick's being sarcastic again." Ushio peeked in the door and said, "Sorry, Bryce, can't do anything about that. I can get Maverick though." "Yeah, go go get him. Tell him we have a code sarcasm in the break room," Bryce said jokingly. A few seconds later, Nick sat down and continued drinking his coffee after Bryce left the room to go to his office. When Maverick walked into the room, he said, "I heard you were being sarcastic from Ushio." "No, Maverick. I would never do anything like that," Nick said even more sarcastically. "Yeah, anyways, you and Ushio go on patrol in 5 minutes. I'll catch you later, my sweet boy," Maverick said. Holy shit. 39 degrees? God, I'm dying over here. Just kidding. I'm not actually dying. Don't send help. I'm not dying. For the love of God. A few hours later, while on patrol at 12 p.m., Nick and Ushio were eating lunch and the clouds had just rolled in, and they could see heavy rain in the distance, along with flashes of lightning. "So, do you think we're gonna get soaked?" Ushio asked. "If I do, it's not a problem. But what will you do if you get soaked?" Nick asked. "I guess I'll just go inside and to stay dry if it starts to rain heavily," Ushio said after he took a sip of water. Ushio, I have a question. What what did you do before the solar flare happened?" Nick asked. "Oh, me? I worked at a grocery store while taking college classes," Ushio said. 10 minutes later, as they were leaving, it started to rain lightly. Then they got an urgent call over the radios from Maverick. "Nick, I need your help. There's a shoplifter who's just taken off and is flying faster than me. Do you think you could catch up to them?" "Yes, I do believe I can. What's the description?" Nick said while preparing to run up. They are white with blue stripes and have two legs, Maverick said. And position? Nick asked. Flying towards the ocean from the store on the north side of town, Maverick said. Got it, en route to intercept, Nick said as he took off of his wingsuit. A few minutes later, as Nick approached the suspect at high speed, when Maverick radioed again, "Oh shit, I think they see you." They just turned, and they are heading towards the storm. "Don't worry, I'm almost next to them," Nick said as he approached. As Nick approached them from above, they looked up and said, "Fuck off, human! You won't stop me, whatever you do!" Then they pulled up hard, causing Nick to quickly roll out of the way, and he began to chase him, until he noticed the rain was now harder, and the wind had shifted and began to make it difficult to fly through. And then multiple flashes of white and wild thundering cracks. Then over the radio he heard, "Oh shit, they just flew into the thunderclouds. Everyone pull back. It's too dangerous." Nick could see the dragon's dark outline in the clouds, then closed his eyes and began to change the environment around him, shifting the wind and increasing the rain. And when he reopened his eyes, they were glowing a crimson red. Then flashes of red then there were flashes of red lightning started. And someone on the radio said, guys, I don't think that's normal. What could be causing the lightning to be that color? And why did it get more windy? It's like a fucking hurricane up here." The wind was now helping propel Nick faster, while making it difficult for the suspect to flee, and the rain and lightning was wearing down the morale to run. Nick once again flew next to the dragon, and when they looked at him, they had a face of pure terror and said, "Fine, fine, please don't hurt me. I'll land at the police station." Hold on. Out of story, real quick. No shit, it feels colder. No shit. Nick went to radio that he got the suspect to follow him, but all he got from the other end was broken and very staticky. Nick made the storm go back to how it was before he charged it, and flew out of the clouds with the suspect. And he heard Maverick say over the radio, "I have eyes on Nick and the suspect. What Whatever he did seems to have worked, and also scared the shit out of everyone else and me." Once Nick returned to the police station, soaked from the storm, he wrote a report on the incident, then was told to go home so he could dry off some of his equipment and change into dry clothes. The rest of the day was quiet and the storm blew over, and after work, when Nick and Maverick went home and ate dinner, Maverick asked, "Nick, what was that earlier? I know you're immortal and all, but I was worried for you." "Oh, I just supercharged the storm, that's all. Also, babe, don't worry. There's no need to be worried for me when I do stuff like that. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? I fall and get hurt? I'm used to getting hurt. But yet again, I know it hurts you to see me hurt," Nick said. "S- s- See, now you get it, you goofy goober," Maverick said, almost laughing, as Nick returned to eating. After Nick ate, he went to sleep, since he had a long day and on Thursday, nothing of interest happened, and most of Friday until after work, when Nick, Maverick, Bryce, and Lucio were hanging out at the bar and decided to do a drinking game of who is most likely. That was that was Bryce's idea, and they decided to make Lucio go first. Who's most likely to pay for tonight? Lucio said. Whoever passes out first, so I guess me. So, who's gonna go? Who's going next? Nick said. After Nick said afterwards, downing some of his drink. We're going clockwise. So, me. Who's most likely to file an incident report tonight? Bryce said. That would be you, Chief, Maverick said, and everyone agreed. Then Bryce took a sip of his drink. Then it was Maverick's turn. Sorry about that. I had to get a quick sip of water. Anyway, where was I? There we go. Then it was Maverick's turn. Who's most likely to have sex with a dragon? Nick and Ushio both looked at Maverick, then took a sip of their drinks, and Ushio said, "Okay, now that's unfair. Payback is coming for you, Maverick." Then it was Nick's turn. Okay, what to say? Who's most likely to throw a party in the woods? Nick said. I think that would have to be Bryce, Maverick said. Wait, you guys can't pin this on me. I'd say Nick, since he spends a lot of time outside. Bryce rebutted. Yeah, sorry, Nick. It's gonna have to be you on this one, Ushio said. Fine, I see how it is, Nick said as he took a sip of his drink. 20 minutes later, while it was Maverick's turn, Nick saw a human figure walk into the bar who was not Izumi or one of his soldiers. When the man came up to Nick and said, "Are you Nicholas McCone, mister?" "Yeah, what can I do for you?" Nick replied. "You killed my friend," the man said while reaching his hand into his coat. "Well, I've killed many people. Who are you referring to exactly?" Nick asked. "Reza," the man said, as he pulled out a gun and shot Nick once in the chest. Then the bar became silent as Nick stood up from his seat and said, "Who's most likely to die in 5 seconds?" "That person?" Bryce asked. "Correct," Nick said as he pulled, a, pulled out his gun and shot the person in the head once. Damn it. Now the night's ruined because of this jackass. I need to make a call. I'll be right back," Nick said as he Nick said as he walked outside. Where 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 outside passerbys had just saw what happened and saw a red stain on Nick's white shirt, and Nick called in a fleet of ships to blockade the planet and get some people down there to investigate the person's body and see who he was. Then he went back inside, sat down, and removed the bullet from his chest, and his wound regenerated. Then he held his head in his hands and began to cry and said, "Fuck! Why can't people just stop trying to fucking kill me? They should know at this point that it never works." Then Maverick interjected and said, Nick, let me get you home before anyone else tries to kill you. Fine, just wait until the guards get here, Nick said while calming himself down. What felt like 20 very long minutes later, everyone but Nick, Ushio, Bryce, and Maverick had cleared the scene. It was quiet besides the jazzy music playing from the record player across the room. When all of a sudden, multiple dropships with red metallic lines on the sides landed and outpoured multiple different people from different branches of New Mordor's military and government, and someone walked in and asked Nick while stepping over the person's corpse. What happened in here, Nick? This guy walked in, said I killed his friend. I asked who. Vinny said Reza. Vinny just pulled out a gun and then shot me. Nick said, well, guess we'll take it from here. You just get home and hunker down till we give you the all clear. Nick and Maverick were being escorted home. When off in the distance, they saw a civilian ship from New Madorian space trying to escape when it was spotted by fighters and quickly shot down, crashing into the forest. Nick knew this as he heard a large booming sound and a few seconds later a large plume of smoke. When they got when they got home, they sat down on the couch and Maverick asked, "Did you have to kill that person, Nick?" "I had no choice. It's in New Madorian law that the punishment for trying to kill the Emperor of New Mordor is death. But people not under these laws, like you dragons, do not apply. But since I'm under your laws, I have to have a hearing or something." Nick said, "No, no, 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 no. You just have an incident report. Just a major incident report." Nick said, reassuring. "Oh well. Now I just feel dumb for saying that. You know, after the Reza incident, I thought I wouldn't have to kill anyone else. But I guess I was very wrong," Nick said as he got up, and Maverick asked, "Where are you going?" "To bed so I could start fresh tomorrow," Nick said with a slight anger in his voice. "Alright, just don't go into a coma on me again. Also, I have ways to make you no longer angry, you punk," Maverick said as Nick walked through the bedroom door to go to sleep. For the next 2 days, the Royal Guard followed Nick around wherever he went until Monday, when the all clear was given. And Monday it was back to normal. On Tuesday, October 31st, Nick and Maverick went to work as normal. Then, when they got home, they, and when I say they, I mean Nick, because Maverick did not wear clothes, got ready. And Nick had put on his old ambassador clothes, consisting of a black dress shirt and pants with red dress shoes. And when he came out of the bathroom where he was changing, and when he came out of the bathroom where he was changing, when Maverick said, "That's a look I've not seen in months. You look just like you did when you got here on the 13th of August, except with, longer hair. But damn, you're cuter now than you were then." "Now, well, I don't know how to respond. I guess I should just melt again," Nick said. His face was as bright as neon mixed with tomato juice. "Well, you ready to go to my parents' house, Nick?" Maverick asked. "Yes, I am indeed ready," Nick said as he began walking to the door with Maverick. Then they started walking across town. They saw pumpkins on people's porches and the sun was setting. off in the distance. They could see clouds turning a reddish pink as the sun's light was reflecting on the clouds' water droplets. What in the hell is this? Mm. And an hour and 2 minutes later, they had reached Maverick's parents' house, and Maverick rang the doorbell. And an older gray four-legged dragon opened the door and said, "Look what we have here. My son and his human boyfriend. I assume you're here for a movie or two movies, depending on how long you're planning to stay for tonight." "Yes, it's nice to meet you." "Forgive me, what's your name?" Nick said. "Ah, I forgot to say my name. That's how excited I am to meet you." "Well, my name is Frank, and his mom's name is Karen," a female voice said from further into the house. "Nice to meet you, Frank," Nick said as Frank opened the door more so they could walk into the house. Once inside, Nick pulsed a few times with air pressure to make some form of mental map, and everyone felt it, but didn't know what it was or where it came from. Then Nick looked at Maverick, who was giving him a glance that was asking non-verbally, "Was that you?" Nick nodded once. Then he went to sit on the couch and looked around. He noticed that the carpet was an off red color with burn marks. It looked like someone tried to practice fire breathing inside once. And the decor was slightly like Maverick's house. Speaking of the house, Nick's pulses gave him a rough sense of the layout, centered from the front door into the living room. On the right side of the house, there was a large area that Nick presumed to be the kitchen. Then to the left side, there were 3 rooms. Nick decided Nick decided he would just wait for everyone with Maverick, and 13 minutes later, Maverick's mom came out of the kitchen and they all watched the first movie. That was a little scary. Then, in the middle of the second movie, right as there's a jump scare, Maverick poked at Nick's sides and Nick screamed in fright and jumped towards Maverick, who was now laughing. Said, "Ha! That was adorable. I like it. Like I said on the night of Bryce's barbecue. You're kinda cute when you're scared." "Yeah, I guess I am according to you," Nick said. After 30 more minutes, Nick and Maverick went home and fell asleep while snuggling. What the fuck happened here? Let me just fix this, like, right now. Can I fix it? Don't know what happened here. What the fuck? Anyways, that was the end of Chapter 5, Act 3. Now, the day I'm releasing this is Thanksgiving in the year 2023. So, if you actually get this far, and are in the US or wherever they celebrate Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving. And thanks for watching. Goodbye. Haha.